Hello and welcome to Lore of the Cards, the series that looks to find the lore hidden in your Hearthstone deck. Today we'll be doing a bit of a light episode, something to tide you all over until our next big one, which will be the Paladin legendary Tirion Fordring. Get your saw blades whirring and your gears grinding as we're heading back to Goblins and Gnomes to take a look at the Shredders. The Piloted Shredder, Piloted Sky Golem and of course the legendary Sneed's old Shredder. Let's take a very quick look at each artist. Dan Scott, as well as Blizzard franchises, has also worked on Magic, Dungeons & Dragons and various comics. In Hearthstone, he is responsible for the art of 28 collectible cards, as well as a few uncollectibles, a hero power and some adventure cards. Michael Phillippi is the artist of the Sky Golem. His client list on his website is impressive, including Games Workshop, several game studios and publishers, and of course Blizzard. Sky Golem is the only collectible card he has produced for Hearthstone. His art is also used for Muckler's Big Brother and Dragonkin's Spellcaster. Christopher Moeller painted Sneed, a well-respected comic and games artist. In Hearthstone, his art has been used for 5 collectible cards and a few adventure cards as well. Goblin Shredders were first seen in the Warcraft franchise in Warcraft 3. They could be purchased from Goblin laboratory shops. They epitomise Goblin design, efficient yet unrefined. Sure, they perform their job well, but you can never tell if, or more likely when, the inventions will go up in flames. These clanking metal constructs harvested lumber like no other. Most standard worker units in Warcraft 3 would supply a base with 10 lumber upon returning their harvest. The Undead's Ghoul returned 20 and the Night Elf's Wisp 5 without having to walk to a structure. Shredders could gather an astounding 200 units of lumber with each journey, not only gathering lumber much quicker, but also saving on food resources. Unlike other worker units, the Shredder could also hold its own in a fight. Its claw and circular saw are able to pack quite a punch at close range, and its armoured chassis giving it increased resilience against attack. In Warcraft 3, Shredders were involved with the story of the Orcish campaign, appearing in the race's 4th mission, the Spirits of Ashenvale. Following the warning of a mysterious prophet who would later be revealed as Medivh, the last guardian of Tirisfal, Thrall led his people across the sea to the lands of Kalimdor. This saw the Orcish Horde avoid the devastating attacks of the undead Scourge, which allowed for the return of the Burning Legion to Azeroth. This demonic army, who sought the world's utter annihilation, made short work of what resistance remained upon the Eastern Kingdoms, the Scourge having dealt decisive blows to the human kingdom of Lordaeron and the elven kingdom of Quel'Thalas. Upon arriving on Kalimdor, the Orcs were split, their fleet of ships torn apart by the turbulent weather. Thrall sought to gather his forces and establish his people upon this new land. While Thrall was able to round up many of the Horde forces, one clan was notably missing: the Warsong, led by Thrall's good friend and confidant, Gromash Hellscream. Thrall continued his search for Grom, taking his time to aid a new race to them, known as the Tauren, against the marauding Centaur. After helping the Tauren successfully escort a caravan, Thrall would eventually discover Grom after a week of travelling through the wastelands of Kalimdor. The Orcish warrior had been able to establish a base camp, but his clan were in the midst of fervently defending it. To Thrall's surprise, humans had also made their way to Kalimdor. Thrall and his men were able to help Grom fight off the human assault. Grom informed his friend that the humans had set up a blockade to the Stone Talon Mountains, more than an annoyance to Thrall, as he sought to lead his people to the north, seeking an oracle upon the Tauren chieftain Ken's recommendation, to try and help him decide as to what to do next in this new strange land. To try and avoid any unnecessary bloodshed, Thrall told Grom to leave the humans alone, as he sought to navigate his way around their camps to a Goblin laboratory. This way he could hire Zeppelins to bypass the human forces completely. This was a difficult order for Grom to follow, as he was part of the generation of orcs that had been corrupted by the Burning Legion. By drinking the blood of the demon Mannoroth, they had been gifted great strength, but at a price. They were forever bound to the Legion and could succumb to fits of bloodlust. While Grom had made commendable strides to keep his in check, this was an occasion in which he just couldn't. To Thrall's chagrin, Grom attacked the human settlements. The war chief now had to find a way to the laboratory while defending against human attacks. Eventually the orcs made it to the lab, but before Thrall departed, he rounded on Hellscream, chiding him for his foolishness. Grom apologised for letting the bloodlust take over, but Thrall was incensed by his actions. Instead of taking the Warsong and Grom with him, some of the Horde's mightiest warriors, he sent them to the forest of Ashenvale to stockpile lumber and build a settlement for the Horde. While defending this operation from Night Elves, who were not best pleased the orcs were destroying their ancestral home, Grom would happen upon the goblin merchant Nelock Greedyfingers.
Ah, greetings, good orc. Strange to see one of you in these parts.
We are here to cut lumber, little goblin.
Well, there's this tribe of bearmen called Furbolgs in this region that's been giving us trouble. If you kill the chieftain, we'll sell our goods to you at cost. We might even let you borrow a few shredders.
I'll consider it.
Eager to gain access to the goblin's mechanical marvels, Grom aided him, slaying the bothersome Furbolgs and their chieftain. As a reward, Hellscream was gifted with 2 Goblin Shredders and access to all Greedyfingers' wares. For a price, of course. The Shredders greatly increased Hellscream's ability to gather lumber, and it was not long before the mighty orc had crushed the Night Elf resistance and levelled large areas of the forest. It would incur the wrath of the demigod Cenarius. See the Warsong once again turn to demon blood to survive, and being brought under the yoke of demon oppression until later being freed by Thrall. Hellscream would redeem himself by killing Mannoroth and freeing his brethren from demonic corruption once and for all. Since then, Shredders have continued to be used by all Goblin cartels for their great ability to gather resources and their considerable strength as machines of war. In WoW, the machines have also been utilised in the Goblin sport Footbomb. A Shredder kicks footbombs at opposing Shredders, reducing them to rubble. When the opposite team is only spare parts, the attacking team is able to attempt to kick a footbomb into the opponent's goal. In World of Warcraft, where goblins are found, it is highly likely that these inventions can also be found. Perhaps the most notable Shredder in vanilla World of Warcraft was the one piloted by the Goblin Sneed. This Shredder used to be a boss in the Deadmines dungeon. Sneed's Shredder acted as a portable lumber mill for the Defias Brotherhood. Sneed hired by the Brotherhood's leader, Edwin Van Cleef, to act as their lumber master. The organisation were a large group of petty thieves who sought to destroy the city of Stormwind. Once the architects that had helped rebuild the city after the first few wars with the orcs, they turned on their own people, when grossly under-rewarded for their work and dedication. As a result, Van Cleef was constantly targeted by heroes of the Alliance, but in order to reach him, they had to defeat many intimidating opponents, including Sneed. The Gnomes were also eager for members of the Alliance to take out Sneed's Shredder. Their capital of Gnomeregan had been overrun by Trogs. By collecting the intact power supply of Sneed's Shredder, the Gnomes could give this to their gyrodromatic excavators, allowing them to break through the rocky underground borders of Gnomeregan and open it up for a gnomish assault. Heroes went in search of Sneed, finding him in the Maelstrom of the Deadmines. This was where the lumber collected by the Defias was being used to create a giant mast to attach to a massive seafaring Juggernaut, which would bombard Stormwind from the ocean. The heroes were careful to remove Sneed's aids from any potential fight before taking on the man himself. Sneed sought to carve up his adversaries. He'd been cutting lumber for so long he wanted to cut his opponents into fleshy planks. Sneed Shredder was such an imposing piece of machinery it could make heroes flee in fear. He was also able to slice his opponents, causing pain so intense it distracted them from spellcasting quickly. Even when the Shredder was felled, the fight was not over. Sneed would eject from his Shredder, clinging to opponents, pummeling them and disarming them. Eventually, the group of heroes were able to take down the resilient Goblin. Van Cleef, not long after this, would follow his Lumbermaster to the grave. If the Hearthstone flavor text is to be believed, after his defeat, Sneed Shredder was recovered from the dead mines and sold on via an auction to an anonymous buyer. Apparently this was likely Hogger, though that's probably just a joke. The dead mines would later be reworked in the Cataclysm expansion, with Van Cleef's daughter Vanessa taking over the Brotherhood. Sneed's encounter was replaced with another Goblin, Helix Gearbreaker, a traitor to the Horde's Bilgewater cartel, accepting a vast sum of money to aid Vanessa in constructing the mast for the ship her father had started. Instead of a Shredder though, Helix rode upon the back of a hobgoblin. The Sky Golem was a new model for the Goblin Shredder which was added to WoW in the Mists of Pandaria expansion. The Sky Golem itself was an epic mount that could be created by heroes specialising in the engineering profession. For those grinding the mount, it could take 30 days to create, as it required living steel. These were made by alchemists who could only produce one every 24 hours. Unlike the Shredders that preceded it, the Sky Golem was also capable of flight. This mount was based on one of the raid bosses in the Siege of Orgrimmar raid. The acting war chief at the time, Garrosh Hellscream, son of Grom and all-round douche, had managed to attract the ire of both Horde and Alliance. The Orc sought to use the heart of the dead old god Yasharaj to empower himself and his forces to crush all opposition, making the Orcs Azeroth's dominant race. Garrosh would not only rely on the heart of the ancient god, but also inventions of one siege crafter, Blackfuse. To be accepted into the warchief's true horde, the goblin needed to exhibit engineering prowess, professionalism, and ruthlessness, which Blackfuse had in spades. Blackfuse created the siege weaponry of the true Horde, including the scorpion-like Iron Juggernaut. But Blackfuse made sure to keep his greatest invention to himself, a Shredder, redesigned into the ultimate war machine. It could fire saw blades, electrocute opponents, was equipped with a sophisticated defense matrix, and called automated shredders to fight, which Blackfuse could even repair on the fly. Not only this, Blackfuse's workplace was protected by turrets which could fire lasers and missiles, an electromagnet which could pull heroes towards it, and crawler mines. In short, this Shredder was not to be trifled with. Eventually though, heroes were able to defeat Blackfuse, but his legacy would not die there. Garrosh was able to escape from captivity after being bested and travelled to an alternate reality, to a time when the Orcs had not drank the demon blood. He was able to convince most of the Orcs they did not need Mannoroth's blood, and a key component of his persuasion was Blackfuse's blueprints and schematics. The Orcs were able to create weaponry far superior to their current capabilities. Rejecting Mannoroth, the Orcs were still able to bring much of this alternate Draenor to its knees. Garrosh, seeking to avenge his defeat, would help this new Iron Horde open up a waygate to attack the Azeroth of his reality. So, there you have it, the lore surrounding the Goblin Shredders. While they themselves may not have a huge amount of lore, they are very much connected to key points within Warcraft history. I really hope you enjoyed this short look at the Shredders. If you did, help kick this channel into overdrive by subscribing, liking this video, and sharing it around. Of course, if you want to see this channel merely reduced to a set of spare parts, you can hit the dislike button. I've done my best to credit all artists used in the description below, so do please check out the artist's work if you like it. To keep up to date with Six Gamers, follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and to catch any live streams, follow us on Twitch. Until next time, happy Hearthstoning.